Let us pray. O Lord, grant us a daily awareness of the precious gift of life which you have given us. As members of this legislative assembly, we dedicate our lives anew to the service of our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
For Edmonton Kingsway.
It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 3 new Democrats from around the country, in fact from our neighboring province, Saskatchewan, all of them. I would like them to stand as I call their name. The first one, Ray Funk, a MP for Prince Albert Churchill River. And stay standing, please. And Myron Kowalski, MLA for Prince Albert Carleton, so they overlap. And Glenn Hagel, MLA for Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, caucus chair. So I would ask the Assembly to give them a warm welcome.
Presenting petitions.
Warner, followed by Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to file with the Legislative Assembly a petition received containing more than 1,000 signatures of Albertans concerning the type of entertainment allowed in Alberta bars.
Edmonton Belmont.
Speaker, ever since I was a young boy, I've played the silver ball. From Berwyn down to Claresholm, I must have played them all. That big old bear from Barhead, he never tilts at all. The minister named Kowalski sure plays a mean pinball. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I received a rather unique petition in that 18 individuals who signed that petition signed their names to a video arcade machine. It weighs about 250 pounds and stands about 6 feet high, so I didn't bring it into the legislature, Mr. Speaker. However, sir, I do have a paper copy of that petition with 20 signatures that asks the Legislative Assembly to adopt an act that is similar to the province of New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island that would permit the private ownership and operation of video lottery terminals. Mr. Speaker, finally, I wish to advise members that the video machine will be delivered to the Minister of Public Works Supply and Services following question period, and those members that have 50 cents can go and plug in their quarters and play the game.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, I'd like to inform you that pursuant to Standing Order 30, I wish to request leave to move to adjourn the ordinary business of the Assembly today, discuss a matter of urgent public importance, that being yesterday's announced sale by the Alberta government of Novotel Communications Limited and the loss of $566 million that the Alberta taxpayers have suffered as a result of this sale and the repurchase of Novotel from TELUS in January 1991.
Introduction of bills.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 298, the Access Enforcement Act. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this act is to provide wider opportunity for custodial and non-custodial parents to resolve access disputes, as well as offer mediation services as an alternative to costly court proceedings.
The member for Edmonton Goldbar has moved first reading to Bill 298, Access Enforcement Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 298, Access Enforcement Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mrs. Hughes, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 303, the Employment Standards Code Amendment Act. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this act is to ensure provincial legislation is consistent with the Federal Unemployment Insurance Act, extending present maternity leave by 8 weeks and adoption leave by 10 weeks.
The honourable member for Edmonton Gold Bar has moved first reading to Bill 303, Employment Standards Code Amendment Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 303, Employment Standards Code Amendment Act, introduced by the honourable member Mrs. Hughes, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Gold Bar.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 306, the Health Disciplines Amendment Act. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this legislation would ensure that once again, midwifery is recognized as a legal profession.
The honourable member for Edmonton Gold Bar has moved first reading of Bill 306, Health Disciplines Amendment Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 306, Health Disciplines Amendment Act, introduced by the honourable member Mrs. Hughes, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Honourable members, I table with the Assembly Members' Service Committee Order number 5, 1992. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a great honor for me today to introduce Walter and Elvina Gerba from the Delton community in Edmonton. And the reason it is an honor, Mr. Speaker, is that this year they won the Longtime Outstanding Service Award presented by the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues. There's only 4 of these in the year, Mr. Speaker. And interesting enough, this is the first husband and wife team that won an individual award, Mr. Speaker. They're in the public gallery. I'd ask them to stand and receive the warm welcome from members of the Assembly.
Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, followed by Edmonton Bellman.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure this morning to introduce grade 11 students from Calvin Christian School in my constituency in the community of Monarch. They're accompanied this morning by teachers Mr. and Mrs. Marina Slingerland and Miss Glenda Slingerland, and helpers or parents Mr. and Mrs. Hank Arnold-Dewson. Mr. Speaker, it's not very often I get an opportunity to introduce members from my constituency, and I would ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure today to introduce to you and to all members of the legislature 2 members of the Amusement Operators Association of Alberta. They're seated in the public gallery. They're Gary Erdman and Jim Stricallo. I'd ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Legislative Assembly.
Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism, followed by Edmonton Centre.
I'd like to introduce 2 gentlemen who are seated in the members' gallery. One is the Deputy Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism, Jack O'Neill, who many members of the Assembly are already familiar with. But he is accompanied today by the person to whom he affectionately refers as his kid brother. I'd like to introduce Brian O'Neill, who is the Executive Vice President of the National Hockey League, who's here in town tonight to witness Game 4 of the playoffs. It's over. And if we pound our desks real hard, perhaps he'll be back for Game 6 on Tuesday. I'd ask him to stand.
Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in the public gallery today are 8 students from St. Joseph's High School in the constituency of Edmonton Centre. They're here with their teacher, David Zaccaro. They enjoyed their stay with us this morning, and ask them now to please rise and be welcomed by the members here today.
Member for Clover Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce to you and to the members of the Assembly 21 guests from the Rudolph Henning School at Fort Saskatchewan. Our guests are seated in the members' gallery. They are accompanied by their teacher, Mr. Ingriselli. I would now ask them to rise and ask the members of the Assembly to extend a warm, cordial welcome.
Honorable members, tomorrow marks a special anniversary for one of our members. It marks the 25th anniversary of his first election to the Alberta Legislative Assembly, May 23rd, 1967. I'm sure all honorable members will recognize the Honorable Premier.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, yesterday's Novotel announcement frankly marked the biggest fiasco in this province's history. Yet this government, Mr. Speaker, didn't have the courtesy to announce it in the legislature, and at the last minute, technology research and telecommunications estimates were switched by this government, so no questions could be asked of this minister today, Mr. Speaker. That is shameful, Mr. Speaker. What a sad day for Alberta. But, Mr. Speaker, what is clear about this announcement is that the privatization of AGT is a complete and utter fiasco. The province made $421 million, Mr. Speaker, in the sale of AGT, but lost more than $500 million on Novotel, Mr. Speaker. Shrewd business sense. My question to the Premier is simply this, Mr. Speaker. Will the Premier now tell Albertans how it is possible to privatize a profitable company like AGT, yet end up costing Alberta taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars?
Well, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, the provincial treasurer dealt with this very question yesterday, Mr. Speaker, and perhaps today, in the fullness of the estimates, that we'll be able to deal with it further. I can only say, Mr. Speaker, that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition prefaced his question with some false comments. And if he would only frame them in the context of the real facts, we'd be able to deal with the matter more effectively. But in dealing with the matter of somehow trying to keep discussion on this matter away from the House, I just can't accept it. The government has announced this matter where the people have jobs. The acting minister made the announcement in this legislature. We tabled a letter under special duties of the Auditor General to get all the information out and then to make it public. And then, Mr. Speaker, as we pointed out before, this is a matter that, since the government has had it, has been ordered through a management committee to either become profitable, be shut down, or sold. And that's where the government's responsibility was, and now we have all the facts we want to be out. And rather than a question period controlling people, the minister's estimates, where you can talk over and over again, ask as many questions as you want. I mean, let's really get the facts here. That is the best.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. The questions will be allowed to continue on the matter of privatization or the matter of the announcement being outside the House or inside the House, but not on the issue, please.
That's precisely my point. The Speaker just made the point very clearly about how this government's hiding, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, AGT was privatized 2 years ago with the blessing of both the Conservatives and the Liberals. Now taxpayers are left holding the bill for the ideology of these two parties, Mr. Speaker. I would point out AGT was making about $50 million a year at that time, so we've also given up $100 million in profit so far, Mr. Speaker. So what we have sold off is profitable assets and bigger deficits. My question to the Premier is simply this: what kind of fiscal management is that?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we spent most of the question period yesterday dealing with the same matters. And if the honourable member wants to review Hansard, he will have received all of the answers. Now, on the narrow Now, on the narrow area of privatization which he raises, the minister may well want to supplement my remarks.
Mr. Speaker, position of TELUS. I think it's very important, and the Honourable Leader should know this, the reasons for the TELUS privatization. The nature of the industry at that point in time was such that that was the only route to follow if this province was ever going to be furthered. The dollars that are resulted from that, $500 million to the bottom line for the taxpayer, a removal of about $1.5 billion of loans and guarantees off the backs of taxpayers, and the removal of about $2 billion worth of capital investment that would have been required if we had not privatized the AGT.
What a phony baloney answer, Mr. Speaker. What a phony baloney. Mr. Speaker, the reality is it was a triumph of ideology over common sense, and it's cost us $145 million, and we've given up our assets, Mr. Speaker. That's the reality. Now, my question back to the Premier is simply this. Isn't it true, because the Treasurer was talking about this yesterday, that because of this government's waste and mismanagement, all Albertans are going to have to pay higher taxes for less service in the future?
No, Mr. Speaker, that isn't true.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition, and hopefully it'll be on a topic other than technology, research, and telecommunications.
Well, I know it's a cute maneuver, but we'll keep going by this government. Mr. Speaker, my second questions have to come back to the Premier, Mr. Speaker. This government lost at least $566 million in Novotel. My question to the Premier, who is responsible for this fiasco?
Sorry, Honourable Premier. No, the question's out of line. 409, subsection 12. Question should not anticipate a debate scheduled for the day. The Chair allowed the matter to proceed on the first question. Order, please, Honourable Member. In addition, the estimates are coming up for this department. There's a standing order request that's sponsored by the Leader of the Opposition himself, and that's when it'll be dealt with. You've used up your second question, Honourable Member. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Subsection 12 is what the Chair referred to on 409, and it is completely read, Honourable Member. Order, please. Okay, order, 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 order. Your point of order will be duly noted at the end of question period. Order, order. Leader of the Opposition, I listened to your first supplementary on this second question with an issue that is not directly related.
If I may say so, I'll follow up with performance of this government, Mr. Speaker, and it has to do with the budget.
That's right. Order. Take your place, Edmonton Glengarry. Take your place, Edmonton Glengarry. Thank you, Edmonton Glengarry. It's been noted that you will have a point of order at the end of question period. But at the moment, order please. Order please, Honourable Member. Order please. The Chair recognizes the Leader of the Opposition, who is quite capable of looking after himself and doesn't need Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, when the principal group collapsed in 1987, Alberta taxpayers ended up losing some $125 million. The fallout was severe, Mr. Speaker. A prominent cabinet minister was fired by the Premier, and disillusioned by this government, she eventually resigned her seat. Now, Mr. Speaker, given that the Novotel fiasco is much larger than the principal fiasco, will the Premier now ask the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications to step down?
Well, Mr. Speaker, could I have the 30 minutes or something to consider it? Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, and I really believe that he knows the facts. The matter was something that was started in 1983, as I've already said. It was a creation of the private sector and AGT Commission. It operated under a previous government until, and then under AGT. And then when the government took possession of it, immediately put in place a management team to find out all of the financial facts, to find out all the operations, to review the technology, and then the government said, we want this company to be either profitable and expanding, or if it's going to lose money, we're going to shut it down, or we're going to sell it. And the minister was responsible for putting those matters in place, and we have had a recommendation from the management committee, and we have followed through on it. Now we have, in addition, we have asked the provincial auditor to completely, under special duties in the Auditor General's Act, to look at the entire matter of Novotel and to make a public report on it. Now, plus, Mr. Speaker, we're devoting the whole afternoon, or morning and afternoon, part of the afternoon, to the discussion during the minister's estimates, if the members want it that way. I can't...
Thank you, Honourable Premier. Thank you.
Losing over $500 million is not funny. The unemployed are not going to find it funny. People in health care are not going to find it funny. People in education are not going to find it funny, Mr. Premier. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Premier says he judges his cabinet by performance. My question to the Premier, what does it take to get fired around here? Obviously, losing $500 million won't do it. Is it $1 billion, $2 billion? Just what does it take, Mr. Speaker?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've just described for the honourable member the minister's responsibilities with Novotel. And if he refuses to listen to the answer, I can't help him any further.
Exactly.
Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Getty government bragged about the tax saving that Albertans under the budget, this most recent budget, would have. Tax saving of some $46 for every taxpayer.
Per year.
But yesterday the taxpayers of Alberta learned that every Albertan is going to be saddled with a $217 debt to pay for the mismanagement on Novotel. Now, this is reverse Robin Hood economics, and it's got to stop, Mr. Premier. And so must the government stop manipulating rules, and so must it stop refusing to answer questions in this legislature to try to get away and hide and cover up and soft pedal issues.
Order, please, honourable member. Order. 2 days ago, you were called to order for twice violating that rule within the same period, a question period. Now, please get on without the comments about the answers in debate, in question period.
Mr. Premier, without hiding, without manipulating, without running for cover to an Auditor General, tell the people of Alberta exactly which budgets are going to have to pick up the losses from this huge Novotel loss of $566 million. Where is it going to go?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member was in the House yesterday, and I assume when he's here that he is paying attention and listening, because the provincial treasurer dealt with that exact matter yesterday. Now, I don't think the honourable member should in any way preface his question with those kind of foolish, ridiculous remarks about the government not wanting to deal with this in an open manner. We have asked the Auditor General. As a matter of fact, I've listened with some interest when members of the Liberal Party have suggested more ways in which the Auditor General can participate. And we have asked the Auditor General to perform a special duty here at the request of the Chairman of the Executive Council. And that is to read the letter. I won't do it. Obviously, Mr. Speaker, you would not want me to read it entirely here in the question period. But it gives him full rein to make sure that he looks at everything with the Novotel matter and then makes the report public. Also, Mr. Speaker, we are devoting, presumably, all of this session today in which the minister can deal with the matters having to do with the company. Now, it's an absolute distortion by the leader of the Liberal Party to say that in any way something is trying to be hidden here.
Right. Boomer loses call. Mr. Speaker, the Treasurer informed this House yesterday that some $350 million has already been accounted for in previous budgets. He leaves this Assembly and goes and says that there will have to be an adjustment in some of the budgets to take care of the loss. All I'm asking, Mr. Premier, is to tell us where those adjustments are going to go. Which budgets are we going to see this $566 million accounted for?
Again, Mr. Speaker, the member only has to look at Hansard, and that was just yesterday. Now, I know the honourable member has trouble with the rules of the House and has told people outside that he doesn't do well in here. Well, if he learns the rules, perhaps it will help him. Now, there's no question in my mind, if he reviews Hansard, the provincial treasurer went through in some detail as to the handling of these dollars.
Mr. Speaker, this is the grand master of manipulation and hiding when it comes to questions that need to be answered in this Assembly.
Forgive me, order, please, honourable member. Order. The chair was not quite certain whether those remarks are directed personally at an individual or at a group entity. And if they're directed at an individual, then honourable member, order, you will stand and apologize and withdraw the remarks. Order, please, honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon. Order. Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, my comments were collective in the sense that I was referring to the whole of the government and particularly the cabinet in manipulating and not providing the kind of answers and leadership that's required in this Assembly. Mr. Speaker, pardon me? Mr. Speaker, I want to pick up on something that the Leader of the Opposition said. It's time for some leadership, Mr. Premier, time for some leadership when people in the private sector mismanage something as horribly, as totally as the Minister responsible for telecommunications, or mismanage the economy in the way that the Treasurer has. They're out, they're fired. It's time, Mr. Premier, to show some leadership and fire 2 ministers. I want to know when you're going to do it.
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, we would certainly not do it based on the kind of distortions that the honourable member continues to present to the House. And frankly, I feel badly for him that he's unable to participate in this Assembly with the kind of debate that it brings credit to the Assembly. And I understand that he is not able to adjust to it, but frankly, he's no longer back in trying to administer the city of Edmonton. I mean, he did enough damage there that we're still trying to cover for him.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Honourable Premier. Thank you. Order, please. Thank you. Order. Order, please. Order. Pincher Creek Crow's Nest.
Mr. Speaker, in light of the federal government's rejection of the Federal ERP Panel's recommendation to decommission the Old Man Dam, and in light of the strong support shown yesterday in southern Alberta by elected representatives, chambers of commerce, farmers, and citizens of southern Alberta for the need for the Old Man Dam and its importance for a secure and dependable supply of water for southern Alberta to ensure quality of life and a sustainable economy, and in light of the severe drought conditions in southern Alberta, my question to the Minister of Public Works, Supplies and Services: has the Minister had any discussions with the Chairman of the Federal ERP Panel regarding his recommendation to decommission the Old Man Dam?
Mr. Speaker, the answer to that question is no, I have not. Alberta, of course, welcomes and applauds the decision of the federal government yesterday in moving very quickly in rejecting the major recommendation of this ERP panel. I would like to point out, however, that while I have not had a discussion with Mr. Bill Ross, who was the chairman of the ERP panel, I did notice an article in a paper called the Calgary Herald today with the headline, "Dam Shutdown Not Crucial, Panelist." And if I can believe what has been written, there is a quotation here, and it is in quotation, "I don't have a great deal of difficulty with the rejection of our first recommendation," end quote, said Mr. Bill Ross. Now, Mr. Ross is the chairman of the ERP committee, and it would seem to me that it would be strange for him on the very day that his report is issued that he would basically say he didn't have any difficulty with the rejection. One has to wonder what really the veracity was of the recommendation in the first place, Mr. Speaker.
A supplementary question to the Minister of Public Works, Supplies and Services. Could the Minister outline to the Assembly as to the government's intention regarding the balance of the federal panel's recommendations?
Mr. Speaker, we indicated publicly yesterday that, well, of course, we accepted the federal government's rejection of recommendation, the major recommendation of decommissioning or tearing down the dam. We also indicated that we welcomed the involvement of the federal government in being at the table with the government of Alberta and the Piegan Nation to work towards a resolution of the concerns that have been identified in the past and reiterated yesterday. Mr. Speaker, over the last number of years, we have provided on 2 occasions substantial dollars to the Piegan Nation, $250,000 at one time to assist them in evaluating the actual siting of the Old Man River Dam. And secondly, in 1986, we provided them $750,000 unconditionally that allowed the Piegan Nation to undertake a series of environmental assessments and studies. And those dollars were allocated as a result of an intervention by the Premier and an intervention by the then Minister of the Environment. And I repeat, they were provided unconditionally to the Piegan Nation. And in the past, we have created 5 different committees to sit down to discuss various matters with respect to the Piegan Nation. The federal announcement yesterday is asked to have 2 committees instead of 5. We've agreed to that. We think that's very positive, and we would welcome the federal government being at the table. Responsibility for Native Affairs in Canada rests with the federal government. We think that's very important. And respect to the other recommendations in the report, we've indicated publicly that we either have worked towards a resolution of them, are working towards a resolution of them, or will work towards a further resolution of them, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Minister for Technology and the Provincial Treasurer presented taxpayers of Alberta with a bill for $566 million. Then the Minister of Technology had the audacity to say, and I quote, "The government made all the right decisions," unquote. I can't imagine a single reasonable person in Alberta that would agree that losing $566 million came from making all the right decisions. Mr. Speaker, given that $566 million that this government has lost, it represents for a family of 4 almost $1,000. Way to go. Does the Premier stand by his minister's statement, and is he satisfied that all the right decisions have been made?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've already laid out for the honourable members the process that the government has gone through. And I'll say again for the honourable member that he will consider the facts. This company was started in 1983. The company operated under AGT Commission and NOVA. It then came back to AGT, and the government's responsibility for it occurred when we took it back out of the TELUS offering to protect the integrity of that TELUS privatization. Then, Mr. Speaker, we set in place an evaluation of the company financially, technically, and if the company was not sound, it was to be closed or sold or become profitable. And under that investigation, the minister got the recommendation from the management committee. It was to be sold, and the company was sold. Now, Mr. Speaker, the minister's announced it. The minister's available to discuss all the ramifications of it. But I'm going to have to, Mr. Speaker, I think with your indulgence, because the member's seem to be inferring that there is not an open assessment of this going on. I think I'm going to have to read the letter that was written to the provincial auditor, because it follows in on the matter that the member is referring to. Because Mr. Speaker, it's an evaluation of the facts and the decisions that were taken. And here's what the letter says.
Honourable Premier, I know the matter was tabled yesterday. It's now a record, a public document of record. We'll see if perhaps an excerpt might come in terms of a supplementary. I don't know, but I really cannot allow the whole letter to be read. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All I'm inferring is that the people of Alberta will not believe, nor accept, nor trust a government that is not prepared to do something to indicate they take responsibility and accountability for this loss.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, this government has proceeded over a series of financial disasters unprecedented in Canadian political history. From Novotel to Principal to MagCan, Pocklington and Gaynors, the list goes on and on. In all cases, Albertans were told they were well secured. Well, Mr. Speaker, the spotlight's on the Premier and his leadership. Given this incredible record of betrayal of the Alberta taxpayers, what leadership will we now get from this Premier? What actions will he now take to restore public confidence in him and in his government?
Well, Mr. Speaker, perhaps the honourable member has written questions and doesn't pay any attention to the answers, because we have, for two days now, Mr. Speaker, we have dealt with the matters the honourable member is raising, and the government has placed all the facts in front of the people of Alberta and asked for an independent assessment as well. Now, Mr. Speaker, now the minister is here in the legislature, among all the elected representatives, and we are asking the honourable members to take the day, if they like, to discuss the matter with the minister. I can't think of a more full and open way of dealing with something, Mr. Speaker, and I know that the people of Alberta are going to consider it that way themselves.
Robot. Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we keep warning the government that they need to address the critical need for women's shelters and other family violence programs in Alberta's smaller centres. Any delay will cause great harm and suffering. Well, unfortunately, our worst predictions are coming true with the news that next week the satellite shelter in Fairview will be forced to shut down. My questions are to the Minister of Family and Social Services. The minister knows that Fairview is going to be forced to close because of a $15,000 shortfall. You know, $500 million here, $15,000 needed there. Will the minister now undertake to keep this shelter open?
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, the member for Goldbar knows that we have had substantive expansion in our women's shelters program here in the province of Alberta. That not too long ago we opened 6 new satellite facilities, of which Fairview was one of them. It's run into some rather unique circumstances in the Fairview shelter in particular, Mr. Speaker. I might point out that the other satellite shelters haven't had the same problems nor the same circumstances. But I can say this, Mr. Speaker, that obviously we're working very closely with the good people at the Fairview Satellite Shelter. That last year we did provide some additional one-time funds because of the circumstances they're in. And I can say that we are actively working with them at this time to make sure that we come up with an appropriate and effective solution to their interim problem.
Mr. Speaker, part of the unique circumstances are that the Peace River Social Service Office has stopped operating a sub-office in Fairview, and the shelter is the only place to go for people in crisis, as well as information about your other programs, Mr. Minister. Where does the Minister want those people to go who need help? Tell them where they want to go, or keep that shelter open.
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, it's so often the way they don't listen to the response. I told the member that we are working right now with those folks to make sure that there's a appropriate solution found. Mr. Speaker, I might again say that I've had the opportunity of joining the member from Fairview in working with the community to resolve the outstanding issues that are there. I've visited the shelter personally. I've talked to the operator. We're very committed, Mr. Speaker, to working with them, to making sure that those needs are being met, and we're going to continue to do that. I don't think that the member can ask for any more than that. I don't think the member can ask. We are going to make sure the services that are required are there. We've done that. Again, Mr. Speaker, I'd want to point out that satellite shelters are a new and innovative way that we have found to respond to the crises that are facing women today. We're undergoing a process, Mr. Speaker, that is going to help us to evaluate long-term needs, to be able to project appropriate budgets and appropriate funding levels. But it's a new initiative, Mr. Speaker. And obviously there's going to be changes and adjustments that are going to be required to be made along the way. We're committed to doing that. We're committed to continue to work with them, and we'll make sure those facilities are kept open.
Thank you. Banff Cochrane, followed by Edmonton John.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tourism is a very important part of Alberta's economy. And while the Canada-Alberta Tourism Agreement has ended, recently the Minister of Tourism, Parks and Recreation announced a new 4-year, $10 million joint Canada-Alberta agreement on tourism. My question to the Minister, does this new program indicate some shortcomings in the Canada-Alberta Tourism Agreement?
No, Mr. Speaker. The Canada Tourism Agreement, known as CATA, was a very successful program, and it primarily had an influence on and was directed towards the restoration and improvement of tourism facilities, a capital program, an application-based program, and it did do that. There's some $48 million were spent over the 5 years, and it leveraged some $308 million worth of capital development. The new agreement, which is part and parcel, Mr. Speaker, of the Western Economic Partnership Agreements that were announced in the budget. There's some 8 agreements, all under the Department of Economic Development and Trade. And whereas the federal government is putting up $60 million and the province is putting up $60 million over 4 years to create economic diversification within the province. And very definitely this new agreement is specializing on marketing in tourism, and Western Diversification Program, the regular program, is still available to do development opportunities similar to the old Canada-Alberta Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The tourism industry is very much directed by the industry itself in the province of Alberta. I would ask the Minister whether the new program will be identifying markets that can be utilized through this new program, through the industry or through governments. Which will direct these new and identify these new markets?
Mr. Speaker, we've worked very close with the industry, and as the member said, we've taken the approach right along that tourism is teamwork, and this agreement will follow that philosophy. It's an agreement and a partnership between the federal government, ourselves, and the industry. We've done a 5-year strategy with the industry, identifying which markets we should be expanding and which markets we should be emerging into. And the private sector definitely will have a big influence on where these dollars are spent. I would like to add, Mr. Speaker, that not only have we done a 5-year strategy, but both the federal government and ourselves have reorganized their departments on a market-by-market basis. So we have marketing teams available in each of the international markets, Europe, Pacific Rim, and North America, being identified with this agreement.
Edmonton Jasper, please.
The cost of the Oldman River Dam in actual dollars spent is probably closer to $500 million than the 300-odd million the minister quotes in 1986 dollars. But the Federal Environmental Assessment Report released yesterday has some rather scathing comments about the bogus cost-benefit analysis that the government used to justify the project. It didn't follow generally accepted guidelines. They used an arbitrary and politically convenient discount rate. They failed to consider alternative investments, including the option of leaving the tax dollars in people's pockets. You know, my constituents have to work and pay taxes for a whole year, every family, to pay the interest on the money they borrowed for that thing. They failed to distinguish between economic efficiency and regional income benefits. And I'd like to ask the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Service why he, from the sanctity of his perch as a Minister of the Crown, would put such false and misleading information out to the public.
Mr. Speaker, we've had numerous debates in this Assembly going back to 1986 with respect to the cost benefits and the cost benefit analysis of the Oldman River Dam. And the honourable gentleman's predecessor, who's no longer in the House, consistently raised that kind of question. And Hansard will show that we've definitively answered all of those questions in the years gone by. But the bottom line of it all is, Mr. Speaker, that for each dollar invested in the Oldman River Dam, the analysis that was done by an independent cost-benefit analyzer a number of years ago indicated that for each dollar invested, there would be $2.17 in return. And that was only in the basis, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the benefits of the dam in providing a steady stream of supply of water to some 50 communities in southern Alberta, the opportunity for those communities to make sure that their schools were in operation, that their hospitals were in operation, to assist industry to develop and expand and grow in southern Alberta, to assist the modest numbers of irrigation acres we brought into the system. What was not factored into that cost-benefit analysis, Mr. Speaker, would be the positive impacts on tourism, recreation, and other actions within the South. If they would have been factored in, Mr. Speaker, in fact, the benefit would have grown from $2.17 return for each dollar investment to something much higher than that. And it's rather suspect to have this kind of questioning again. We've just defended it, explained it on numerous occasions, Mr. Speaker, and the most recent opportunity that I had in the Assembly to do it was Tuesday night last, when the estimates of the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services before the Assembly, and the members' colleagues literally spent 2 hours talking about means testing for pari-mutuel.
Thank you. Supplementary.
This is the independent report, and it says your hired guns cook the books. That's what it says. It also says that we can't do anything about the fact that you've spent the money on the dam. That's sunk cost. My voters have to work and pay taxes every year. Can't do anything about it. And what it says on page 31 is even if you treat it as sunk cost, that is, you know, the capital cost is zero, the benefit cost ratio is still negative. The costs outweigh the benefits, even if the dam was free. And my question is quite simply this: how can this government justify a project that doesn't pay its own way, even if it was free?
Mr. Speaker, there has been decades and decades of review with respect to this whole matter. It's very, very clear to me, Mr. Speaker, and very clear to anybody who lives in southern Alberta. Again, I would wish the member from Edmund Jasper Place would accept the invitation extended to him yesterday by my colleague, the Minister of the Environment, to go down to southern Alberta and see what the impact of water is. Mr. Speaker, this is a public investment that will provide a secure supply of water to nearly 250,000 people in some 50 different communities. How does the honourable member factor into a realization that if there's no water, there are no people and there's no life? Mr. Speaker, you have to evaluate that. What happens if there is no water, Mr. Speaker? There is no wildlife. If there is no water, there is no fauna, Mr. Speaker. If there's no water, Mr. Speaker, there's no other industrial activity that goes. And Mr. Speaker, there is a return of $2.17.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Edmonton Avonmore.
Speaker, my questions are to the Minister responsible for Family and Social Services. Mr. Speaker, children move into street prostitution because they have no alternatives. Most leave dysfunctional and abusive homes for their own protection and survival, but there is nobody to provide healthy alternatives and support for them. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, they are not only victims of their homes, but also victims of a system that have failed to address their needs. And until we start to address the victimization, we'll have increasing numbers of children as prostitutes on our streets. My question, will the Minister now commit to put in place supports and assistance that children can access before they turn to the streets?
Mr. Speaker, we have a child welfare system in place in this province, backed up by close to $160 million worth of financial resources, backed up with a partnership of concerned municipalities, concerned community agencies right across this province, Mr. Speaker. We are all working very, very cooperatively. We're working together, Mr. Speaker. We are reaching out in every way that we can to help children that are at risk, to help young women that are at risk, Mr. Speaker. We offer them an exhaustive support system. We're constantly trying to improve on that. We're constantly trying to refine it and make it even better, Mr. Speaker. But I have to say that we have a good system in place in this province. We have very committed workers in place in this province. We have very committed community agencies working in partnership with us in this province, Mr. Speaker. We are doing all that we can.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there are 3 federal and provincial studies that castigate social services departments for failing children who have been sexually abused, who then turn onto the streets. My second question is to the Solicitor General. Mr. Speaker, impaired drivers are made to deal with the consequences of their actions by meeting with their victims and/or their families. In the same way, Johns need to see the impact of their behavior on their victims, whom we call prostitutes, and the roles they play in perpetuating their victimization. Will the Minister now commit to developing and implementing programs in which convicted Johns meet with the adult survivors of child sexual abuse, as well as learning to deal with their own issues of power and violence, intimacy and sexuality?
Mr. Speaker, in the criminal justice system and on this issue as well as many other issues, our police force, along with our municipal bodies and elected people, the Attorney General's Department, the courts, and all others in our society have a role to play in this very serious crime. And as I say, I will take forward your comments and your concerns as I have discussions within the criminal justice system.
Dr. Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On May the 7th, I brought up in the House and was agreed to, admitted by the member, the Minister for Lotteries, that his office was acting as a repository for job applications to be passed on to the ticket printing. On May 8th, I brought up to the Premier, Mr. Speaker, asked whether he thought practice of a cabinet minister using his office as a repository for job applications was proper. The Premier said that he would like to think about it. It's now 14 days or 2 weeks since that time. Could I ask the Premier now whether he has made up his mind as to whether it is proper to take application forms?
Mr. Speaker, what I did was review the honourable member's questions and review the discussion in the legislature through Hansard and found that it had been dealt with very adequately.
Mr. Speaker, then, fearing such an answer, I'd like to file with the House 3 copies of a letter to the Commissioner, the Office of Ethics Commissioner, asking about the practice. But go on to the second question then. If the Minister feels that it's been dealt with, could he answer the second question that he dodged at that time, which did his office act as a repository for application forms for jobs for the lottery fund head office in Stettler.
Good question. Mr. Speaker, what I would try to do is help Albertans in every way possible.
Cardston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Agriculture. Farmers in our province and in our whole country have suffered with low cereal grain prices in recent years. Primarily, this has been due to the subsidy war that's gone on between the European community and the United States. Meetings under the GATT have been ongoing for over 5 years without success. Yesterday, the European community announced that they would be reducing their grain subsidies dramatically. Does the minister anticipate that the United States will follow suit and that this initiative by the EC will open the way for a GATT agreement?
Mr. Speaker, the agreement apparently reached in the European Common Community yesterday to reduce CAP by the extent that they're proposing could, in our judgment, lead to an even better GATT agreement than the Dunkel proposal of December the 20th, 1991. When you look at a proposal coming from the European Common Community of 29% and 30% reductions on cereal grains, that's significantly above the 20% in the Dunkel text, and it certainly puts the pressure on the Americans now to meet those terms, and I would anticipate a political breakthrough in the next month.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, during recent GATT negotiations, there's been considerable pressure for Canada to reduce or dismantle their agricultural supply management system. Can the Minister give us some indication how far Canada will have to go with changes to our supply management system to get an agreement under the GATT?
I think it's fair to say, Mr. Speaker, that in spite of continual lobbying to strengthen and clarify Article 11, Canada still has no more friends on the table than they had 5 years ago. I would suspect that the GATT agreement that unfolds will undoubtedly lead to tariffication without exception. We've had considerable discussion with our supply managed commodity groups to explore with them the impact of tariffication on our dairy and our feather industries. I think we've given them the assurances that changes will be gradual, and we're prepared to work hand in hand with them to get through that period of adjustment. What may disappear is the supply managed structure as a management tool. I think there are ways of mitigating the concerns so that the industries themselves of dairy and feather will survive.
Might we revert briefly to the introduction of special guests proposed? In this order, Leader of the Opposition, followed by the Solicitor General, then the Associate Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have another very distinguished guest in your gallery, Mr. Speaker. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce Gary Doer, Leader of the Opposition from Manitoba. I'd like to ask him to stand and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Associate Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, it's certainly my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly 30 grade 5 students from Coronation School in my constituency. They're accompanied by their teacher, Mr. Tony Seltzer and Miss Donna Tupper, and parent helpers Shirley Shoemaker, Brenda Smith, Joanne Dyke, Joanne Barclay, and their faithful bus drivers, Gerald Lang and Melanie Robertson. They're seated in the members' gallery, Mr. Speaker, and I would ask that they rise and receive the very warm welcome of this Assembly.
Member for Banff-Cochrane.
Today to have the opportunity to introduce 73 grade 7 students from Springbank Middle School in Banff-Cochrane constituency. They're all members of the Springbank Middle School Band. They're all nattily dressed in their blue and gray school band uniforms. They've been traveling since Wednesday, performed 2 concerts yesterday, and after a trip to West Edmonton Mall, we'll be returning to beautiful Banff-Cochrane constituency later on this afternoon. They're accompanied by teachers Pat Worthington, Moira Harleton, and Marlene Joseph, as well as parents Barb Woodruff, Patty Coppathorne, and Jerry Angevine, as well as their 2 bus drivers. And they're seated in both the public and the members' galleries. I'd now ask them to all rise and receive the traditional warm welcome from the Assembly.
The Attorney General.
It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to the Assembly 19 bright grade 10 students from New Sarepta, the home of the New Sarepta Tire and Girdle Company. They are accompanied today by their teacher Roberta Hay and the driver Alfred Schlender. They're seated in the members' gallery. I'd ask that they rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly and extending an invitation to all members to drop out and visit the Tire and Girdle Company.
There are some points of order arising from question period, I understand. Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I believe that you ruled my first question, the second set of questions, out of order, and you quoted, I believe, 409-12, where it says, questions should not anticipate a debate scheduled for the day, but should be reserved for the debate. Mr. Speaker, as I recall my first question, we talked about losing $566 million. My question was very direct. Who's responsible for this fiasco? We were talking about performance, Mr. Speaker, but if you go on to 410, later on where it says the Speaker put forth further views in light of more recent conditions and precedents, it was observed that, and I moved to 14 there, questions should not anticipate an order of the day, although this does not apply to the budget process, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, we were talking about who's responsible for losing $566 million. It applies to the budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. And I think because this is related, Edmonton Glengarry.
Speaker, my point is exactly the same. We've seen this happen before in this Assembly, where the Speaker stands and warns honourable members that the rule of anticipation will preclude questions, stop questions, if in fact the budget process is going to involve that particular minister or a subject matter that the minister could deal with in the budget process. Now, Mr. Speaker, there are 2 sections in Beauchesne. The Leader of the Opposition has referred to both of them. The one that you have quoted, Mr. Speaker, is Section 409, subsection 12. It says, questions should not anticipate a debate scheduled for the day, but should be reserved for the debate. Now, Mr. Speaker, I think what is most interesting when you look at Beauchesne is to see that the reference here is a journal's reference, I presume a journal's reference meaning the House of Commons of Canada, and it's dated April the 14th, 1975. Now, Rule 400, or Beauchesne 410, and I want to read the first sentence of that section, says, in 1986, the Speaker put forth further views in light of more recent conditions and precedents, and it was observed that, and then the Speaker makes a ruling 410-14 that I would like to read into the record, that says as follows. Questions should not anticipate an order of the day, although this does not apply to the budget process. Now, Mr. Speaker, I interpret that as meaning that in spite of the fact that the government, and I say did manipulated the process to put the estimates for the minister responsible for telecommunications on for this day in order to stop questions being put, and I admit, Mr. Speaker, that you gave much more latitude than I expected. I think that we need a clarification on this matter from the Speaker, and I think the clarification has to acknowledge that the 1986 rule now supersedes the 1975 position. Mr. Speaker, I think that the overriding principle that applies to questions that are put during question period must be 408(1), and it says, and I'd like to read that into the record, questions should be asked only in respect of matters of sufficient urgency and importance as to require an immediate answer. I can't think of anything more important than talking about and asking questions of a premier and a treasurer and anybody else that has to have questions put to them on a matter involving a loss of some $566 million. So, Mr. Speaker, we need clarification. We need the Speaker to rule on this matter so that we don't keep bumping into this problem as we go along.
Thank you.
Chair, our standing orders section 2 refers to the role of the Speaker in instances like this where contingencies are unprovided for in our standing orders. That Mr. Speaker shall base his decision on the usages and precedents of the Assembly and on parliamentary tradition. Now, it has been pointed out that the parliamentary tradition is to exempt budget matters from the rule of anticipation, but I think there's a much higher principle, and I'd refer to Beauchesne 410.5. The primary purpose of question period is the seeking of information and the calling of government to account. And I think that must be the overriding principle from which all others are drawn. And clearly, several members felt there was an urgent need to seek information and to call the government for account. And the problem has been observed that if a matter is set for budget debate, which is at the discretion of the government, they can avoid giving information and avoid accountability entirely by that simple device. And I'm quite certain that those who built this place didn't want it to be that easy to escape the question of accountability. And I think the Speaker in 1986 observed that as the primary purpose. So let us preserve the primary purpose when we make rules in this place.
Thank you. Speaking to the point of order, Clover Barr.
On this point of order, Mr. Speaker, I would like to bring to your attention Beauchesne 512.2, apart from the other citations that have been made in the House, and I'd like to just quote from it. The rule against anticipation is that a matter must not anticipate if it is contained in a more effective form of proceeding than the proceeding by which it is sought to be anticipated, and it goes on. Mr. Speaker, we are going to go into estimates of this particular department immediately following. I contend, Mr. Speaker, that that is a more effective forum to ask questions.
Right. Exactly. No, honorable members, please be fair. We have a standing order 13. Order. I believe that honorable member was quiet while others of you were making your points. The point is that all honorable members should be heard in silence. All honorable members. Clover Barr, please continue.
All I'm asking you, when you're ruling on this particular matter under our standing orders, that you take into consideration the effectiveness of those questions. And I believe the debate that's scheduled later on today, as a matter of fact immediately following, will be much more effective in asking questions and holding the minister to account than a couple of questions that may be asked during question period in the House.
Good point. Thank you, Edmonton Gold-Barr.
Mr. Speaker, I too refer to Beauchesne 512.2 and also Beauchesne 513.2. I hold a contrary view to the member for Clover Barr, citing the same section. Mr. Speaker, 512.2 clearly says contained in a more effective form of proceeding than the proceeding which is sought to be anticipated. Surely, Mr. Speaker, we all understand that during the debates on estimates, we have an opportunity, yes, but a limited opportunity to get to ask questions of the minister involved. However, Mr. Speaker, during question period, we have the opportunity to question the Premier, we have the opportunity to question the Treasurer, as well as the Minister involved, all of whom have played a remarkable and a very dramatic role in this whole process. Mr. Speaker, it seems to me, therefore there's no doubt in my mind, that question period is probably, in this case, the more effective form of proceeding and dealing with the matter. The same applies to 513(2), preference is given to the discussion, which leads to the more effective result, Mr. Speaker, and it seems to me the same argument applies there.
Hear, hear.
It's unusual practice to be having a number of persons from one caucus speaking on a point of order, but the chair will allow it in this case. Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a few words, and let me say, first of all, I welcome the comments made by the member from Clover Bar, because it clearly allows us the opportunity to focus a bit on terms of effectiveness, weighing the question period versus the budget debate, and how any member of this House could call a process where a minister of the Crown will get up, will speak for half an hour, a member from the official opposition, a member from this caucus, and then that minister decides to respond to any questions. And I cite, for example, the other day when we dealt with the Department of Public Works, Supply and Services and Lotteries, that particular member chose not to respond to the main motion at all, just chose to allow the Minister of Consumer Affairs to move that the House adjourn.
Speaking to this point, please.
So, Mr. Speaker, to conclude on my point, I would ask that you in your ruling take into consideration very, very clearly the ineffectiveness of the budget process versus question period.
There are a number of issues to be dealt with, obviously. First, the member for Edmonton Glengarry during question period, and I assume during the heat of the moment, really left a mistaken impression when said, and I quote, speaking to the chair, "You only read half of the section in Beauchesne. Read the other half, sir." You were inaccurate, honorable member. Order, please. Order, please. That's fine. That's not the moment to be doing that. Honorable members, if you're very good at quoting the rules and saying read them, then I trust that you will read them all. And wait for the rest of it to occur, please. The honorable members, of course, would be good enough to turn to Standing Order 23E. A member shall be called to order by Mr. Speaker if that member anticipates, contrary to good parliamentary practice, any matter already on the order paper or on notice for consideration. That's standing orders, and they take precedence with regard to what occurs. The matters as raised by both the Leader of the Opposition and the member for Edmonton Glengarry are indeed correct. The chair referred to only one part of Beauchesne, 409, subsection 12, I do believe. Find it so we have it absolutely accurate. 409, subsection 12, quote, "Question should not anticipate a debate scheduled for the day, but should be reserved for the debate," close the quote. The chair also does indeed note the accuracy of Edmonton Glengarry's comment that that was quoted from the journals of April the 14th, 1975. Yes, it is accurate that the chair did not go on to quote Beauchesne 410, subsection 14, because that's been ruled on a number of times in this particular House. And that practice continues to be the practice of this House, and it was raised within this last week to 10 days. And I think most honorable members were in the House at that time when that ruling was again reaffirmed. Now, the chair would like to point out something else here, and it relates to that quoting of subsection 410 in Beauchesne. It says, in 1986. Well, honorable members, you might be interested to know that this particular House, unlike other houses in this country, is using the 6th edition of Beauchesne. And at last checking with the House of Commons, they themselves were not using the 6th edition of Beauchesne, primarily because they did not have it in the 2 official languages. But the chair points out that the edition that we have been using for the life of this legislature was printed in 1989. Very difficult for the practice of this House to suddenly adjust to 1986 when it didn't know what the practice was until 1989. But aside from all of that, order, please, honorable member. You will do the courtesy of the House. The practice of this legislature, and it will be read into the record, is this. Speaker Johnson, on February the 11th, 1935. Speaker Amarongan, March the 19th of 1974, March the 18th of 1974, March the 9th of 1976. Again, April the 3rd, 1990, April the 30th, 1990, May the 9th of 1990, April the 17th of 1991, April the 18th, 1991, April the 22nd, 1991, May the 3rd, 1991, May the 7th, 1991, and to go back a little bit in time, August the 11th of 1986, April the 20th, 1988, June the 14th of 1988, June the 12th of 1989, July 21st of 1989. And the chair is not about to reverse the decisions of this House. Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. I'm quite certain that the House leaders might care to bring it to the attention of the Speaker when next we meet. That certainly would be quite in order. But in terms of today, this is the way it still stands. 409, subsection 12 is in effect, as is our standing orders. The chair would also point out that if honorable members are fair enough to look at what the record does say, that the chair granted a certain amount of leeway so certain aspects of the questions could be asked today. And that also bears in mind the fact that hopefully we still will get around to dealing with the Standing Order 30 request. And then we will see whether or not it goes on to there in terms of the estimates of the department. And the minister being present, I assume will be able to take whatever questions are directed to him and his responsibilities. The chair would also like to point out that there was a certain unease with various comments, excessive language perhaps, by Edmonton Jasper Place under subsection 409, casting aspersions. Order, please. A question must adhere to the proprieties of the House in terms of inferences imputing motives or casting aspersions upon persons within the House or out of it. Now, I know that Edmonton Jasper Place, those comments rolled out today with respect to some officials in the Department of Public Works Supply and Services, but I'm sure that a little more caution might be held there. And again, sometimes that applies to other members in the heat of the moment as well. And again, Westlock Sturgeon, with your line of questioning to the Premier at the end of question period, given the fact that the House had already dealt with the matter on a purported point of privilege, there's some unease about the first question that was asked by Westlock Sturgeon. Now then, Leader of the Opposition, Standing Order 30.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I want to read into the record that pursuant to Standing Order 30, I wish to request leave to move to adjourn the ordinary business of the Assembly today to discuss a matter of urgent public importance, that being yesterday's announced sale by the Alberta government of Novotel Communications Limited and the loss of $566 million that the Alberta taxpayers have suffered as a result of this sale and the repurchase of Novotel from TELUS in January 1991. Now, Mr. Speaker, I know the argument that's going to be given against urgency, and we've had some of this debate already in the House, Mr. Speaker. It's going to say that we can deal with it in estimates right after, Mr. Speaker. Now, I suggest to you that this is of urgent and pressing business, Mr. Speaker, for a number of reasons. Number one, we have lost $500 million, over $500 million, Mr. Speaker, the biggest bamboozle in the history of this province. And, Mr. Speaker, we have not been able, in question period, to deal with the minister for 2 days since this has been announced, Mr. Speaker. Well, however we want to break it down, he did not make the announcement here in the legislature, and we were unable to question him today. And if we say that just questioning him in estimates is good enough, Mr. Speaker, what sort of message are we sending out? Well, Mr. Speaker, we're saying it's basically business as usual, that the minister will get off and batter on probably for an hour, and then a couple other people will get in, and that's supposed to solve a $500 million loss. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to put this in perspective about what's happening and why it is urgent. This is over $500 million on top, Mr. Speaker, of 8 consecutive deficits running up over $15 billion when you take in the consolidated debt. We are in deep and serious trouble, Mr. Speaker, in this province, economically and socially. And yesterday, you had the Treasurer, after question period, saying that it looks like we're going to have more taxes for ordinary people, Mr. Speaker. Now, if that's not urgent, what it will mean in the future, Mr. Speaker, if we don't get a handle on this, is that we're going to have, higher taxes for ordinary people with less services, Mr. Speaker. We have a government totally out of control, and we have to kickstart what's going on in this province. You can't walk away from $500 million and say, what, me worry? It's not our fault, somebody else's fault, Mr. Speaker. And we haven't had access for 2 questions periods, Mr. Speaker, to the minister responsible, and to say that we can do the job this afternoon in estimates. Anybody that follows that knows this is nonsense. And I say to you, Mr. Speaker, emergency debate on this issue would send a very serious message, not only to the government, Mr. Speaker, and I might point out it'd be much more effective than estimates, because you get a number of speakers in, because the limit is 10 minutes, Mr. Speaker. You can get speakers on both sides of the House, a number of them, to debate this. But most importantly, the fact that we're having an emergency debate on this issue would send a very important message to the people of Alberta, that we're taking our job seriously in this legislature, that we're not just walking away, not just saying, walking away from $500 million and saying, oh, well, it's business as usual, Mr. Speaker. This is a very serious, urgent matter.
Member, Government House Leader.
Speaker, I wish to address a few remarks to the Standing Order 30 notice that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition has given. And I can assure the Honourable Leader that the very, very reason why these estimates were scheduled for today was to give that opportunity. Question period with 1 question and 2 supplementals for members and 2 for the Leader and so on, with the give and take at question period, does not give the type of opportunity for debate of this very important matter. And it is an important matter. I agree with the Leader of the Opposition. Vote 1 of my votes, or my estimates, deals with the ministerial responsibilities of this office. I am the Minister of Telecommunications. I will back away from no debate in respect to these matters, and the very reason why we wanted those here at this time was to allow that opportunity, Mr. Speaker. There is full opportunity for members to speak as often as they want. If they wouldn't use so much time in the procedural matters already,
and to give that opportunity to speak and to give the answers and to have that sort of an opportunity to disclose and fully disclose and be accountable is a very important thing. And we don't step away from that one bit, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, while I recognize that the matter of determining urgency is in your area of jurisdiction, we want to proceed with the debate and to answer and be fully accountable as much as possible, and that's the very reason why we're here today.
Calgary Northwest.
Mr. Speaker, speaking to the point of urgency, this is certainly the largest fiasco in terms of dollars and cents that this government has entered into. And the minister has just said, well, the urgency can be solved in debate on estimates. Well, the truth of the matter is we know that our standing orders call for the day to end at 1 o'clock today. So presumably what the minister is saying is that the time we have before us today will be all that is necessary, and I beg to differ.
We've never done it. You've always voted us down. They've always
it's always been the case that we close down at 1 o'clock, and you know the rules too. So shut up.
Honourable member. This is not a school playground. Would you like to retract that broadcast statement that went to every member in this House, or perhaps the chair? Who are you speaking to?
Specifically to the member for Smoky River. But
drown them in canola oil.
It was inappropriate language, Mr. Speaker, and I withdraw the term. But I would perhaps, while we're talking about that, we should draw the honourable member's attention to 13 sub 3, or sorry, 13 sub 4. When a member is speaking, no person shall interrupt that member except to raise a point of order. So, speaking to the matter of urgency, we don't have sufficient time in this legislature. We need time to deal with estimates. We need time to deal with this debate. $566 million. In addition to that, the honourable minister has said that there are still some $400 million in loans out there. We don't know how secure those are. We don't know where we're going with those. There's a potential for more loss as well. And the minister has implied that the time we have for estimates is sufficient time, and I disagree. We need to have a debate. We need to have some answers come forward, and we need to have that debate today.
Before I recognize anyone else, thank you. I am really intrigued that we have one pot calling the kettle black about Standing Order 13.4b. But, you know, I don't know. I agree. I agree. Order. I agree, honourable members, that all members should pay attention to 13.4b. I mean, it would make for a very refreshing day. I doubt if any day in this House is boring. Now, the chair recognizes Clover Bar, followed by Calgary Mountain View, and that should probably be enough.
Okay, just on the, for your consideration, on the matter of urgency specifically, I would draw to your attention section 387 of Bushane, and 390 specifically, where it says urgency within this rule does not apply to the matter itself, but means urgency of debate when the ordinary opportunities provided by the rules of the House do not permit the subject to be brought on early enough and the public interest demands that the discussion take place immediately. Well, as soon as we've dealt with this matter, Mr. Speaker, discussion will proceed.
Thank you. Calgary Mountain View.
Speaker, just a couple of brief comments. The Minister himself has acknowledged that it is an urgent matter for debate, and so then the question becomes how then best is it to be handled and to proceed in the hour and a half that we would, or so that we would have left in terms of this afternoon or today's debate on technology research and telecommunication. The Minister would be able to take up to half an hour to make his opening comments, half an hour up to that amount for the opposition critic, which would then give another half an hour for the Minister to reply or another government member to intervene. That would, in effect, could easily eliminate any participation whatsoever from the third party in this House, and it would also mean that only 3 members would potentially, as few as 3 members, could participate, or perhaps even as few as 2 members could participate in the review of the technology, research, and telecommunications estimates. Whereas a standing order provides for 10 minutes for each individual member, it would allow for a wide variety of debate from members from all corners of the House, representing all corners of Alberta in terms of presenting their concerns and ideas and hopes in terms of the constituents that they represent. So acknowledging that it is an urgent matter of debate, as the Minister does, it seems to me what is now the most appropriate way to proceed then is to ensure that the maximum number of members are going to be able to participate given the rules, and that's best ensured and guaranteed by Standing Order 30.
Well, the Chair has given this matter long and thoughtful consideration since receiving the notice about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And again, the Chair has been very attentive to the words being uttered by honourable members, not only on this particular request for Standing Order 30, but also bearing in mind what transpired in question period and also the points of order discussion after question period. Chair is also, as other honourable members are aware too, that yesterday there was quite an opportunity for various questions, and I think it was about 4, but I'd have to check the records, that were directed at the provincial treasurer in particular yesterday, so that there was some opportunity during yesterday's question period for questions to be dealt with on an emergent basis. Certain documents were filed by the government for a letter towards the Auditor General, which would indicate a willingness to have the matter fully dealt with at whatever the convenient time is. The Chair is also concerned that the estimates for this afternoon, and the Chair were designated to be telecommunications, technology, research, and telecommunications, because that puts the House in an interesting or challenging situation as we went through this morning. The Chair really believes that there's an assurance here that all honourable members are indeed keenly interested in the debate and the issue. The Chair has been of the mind that to have the Minister's estimates this afternoon, immediately following whatever transpires here, would seem to be a fairly valid forum for a wide-ranging discussion of issues, and of course would have the opportunity, at least in theory, to deal with the whole spectrum of the estimates, with the whole spectrum of the elements and votes within technology, research, and telecommunications. However, as an observer from afar of the proceedings of Committee of Supply, sometimes it does appear that certain members seem to take up all the time, or in the space of about an hour and a half, it could well be that we would only have 3 members participate in debate in Committee of Supply, and that does raise a certain concern in the mind of myself. And having listened attentively to concerns expressed about openness of debate from both sides, full opportunity, the matter that the House Leader for the government, who also happens to be the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications, but the statement by that individual member of the House of great willingness to proceed with debate. The Chair has indeed gone through quite a process of examination, and in spite of our attempts to try to keep question period indeed a place where the government can be fully accountable, that there in the public eye there could be a perception here that there would be some kind of closure taking place when in actual fact there is not, if we just went forward to the matter of estimates. The Chair is also cognizant of the fact that until orders of the day are called, that television coverage would continue. And so in the interests of full public discussion, the Chair allows that the matter will proceed to the vote, and we will see what the House now determines. So those in favor, shall the debate on the urgent matter proceed, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Sorry, by the standing order, you have to stand. Those in favor of it, the matter proceeding, please stand. Group. Order, please. Opposed? Opposed? Order, please, before you start calling across the floor here. Just a moment. There was no objection. Standing Order 30. If the Speaker rules in favor of the motion, he shall put the question, shall the debate on the urgent matter proceed to a vote of the Assembly? If objection is taken to the question, shall the debate on the urgent matter proceed, Mr. Speaker, request those members who support the motion to rise in their places. The Chair do not hear anyone in opposition to the matter proceeding. The Chair therefore cannot make the assumption that it was unanimous, but the matter, there were no votes contrary. Now, Chair recognizes there's no numbers standing, so there's not a division. Therefore, Leader of the Opposition.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I understand that it was a difficult decision to make, and obviously I believe that you made the right one because it is a very serious, urgent matter, Mr. Speaker. And the point I was trying to make that you... Yes. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. As I said, I believe that we would have sent the wrong message if it had been business as usual, and I think you've recognized that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have very, very serious problems in this province. Mr. Speaker, yet we have a government that basically says, what, me worry? The Treasurer came down, if I can go back, 2 years ago and said, we have a balanced budget, Mr. Speaker. They had no intention of having a balanced budget at that particular time, Mr. Speaker, and later on we find out it's close to $2 billion in deficit. Then this year they love deficits, Mr. Speaker. They say, what, me worry? Then they have a deficit that even they projected $2.3 billion, and it's probably growing, Mr. Speaker. And what we've had is a series of calamities coming from this government, Mr. Speaker. Billions of dollars lost in terms of their waste and mismanagement of the economy. Often because they got into bed, if you like, Mr. Speaker, with their business friends and handed out money. And we can go through, as we mentioned earlier on, 36 companies, Mr. Speaker, have lost $1.7 billion in ad hoc announcements. We've had other events, the principal affair being the most notable, Mr. Speaker, where the government's waste and mismanagement has hurt the average taxpayer badly. But, Mr. Speaker, nothing compares to walking away from $500 million, Mr. Speaker. Probably, knowing the Treasurer's estimates, Mr. Speaker, it'll be much higher than that, Mr. Speaker. That's what they acknowledge. And if we look back in their past record in terms of predicting the budgets, Mr. Speaker, we know full well that it could likely end up more. So here it is, Mr. Speaker. When we've run a deficit, we've had, as I mentioned earlier, 8 consecutive deficits, totaling consolidated debt $15.76 billion, Mr. Speaker. And now here it is, another $500 million because of their mismanagement, Mr. Speaker. Now, I asked earlier on today to the Premier, who is responsible for this? Does nobody ever take responsibility in this government for what's going on? Mr. Speaker, it doesn't seem to be the case. I asked the Premier, well, it's not his fault. The Treasurer said it's not his fault. And the Minister of Technology says, well, it's not his fault. How do these things happen, Mr. Speaker? $500 million just disappears and nobody's responsible for it. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is unacceptable because the Treasurer said yesterday outside the House, well, if things keep going the way they are, Mr. Speaker, we'll probably have tax hikes. This is the people that was berating other governments for trying to get a hold of their deficit, Mr. Speaker, and now he's admitting that the same thing's going to happen here, Mr. Speaker. I know they want to get through an election before that occurs, Mr. Speaker, but the people of Alberta aren't going to allow them to do that. But, Mr. Speaker, what this means, when you lose $500 million, over $500 million, somebody has to pick up the price for that. It doesn't matter when you take it off and what year. That's $500 million more gone, Mr. Speaker. It's gone. And it's because of this government's waste and mismanagement. That's the truth also, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, then what happens in the future generations when we walk away from over $500 million? Well, as I said, the Treasurer's already talking about taxes, but it's going to mean a cutback. I know this government, they'll come back and say, well, we can't afford a decent health care system. We can't afford a decent educational system. We can't afford to help the poor. We can't afford to help the inner cities. So the tragedy of it, Mr. Speaker, it's not that they're not owning up to it. That's a tragedy itself. But it's not going to be them that pays, Mr. Speaker. It's going to be all Albertans that pay down the way. And this is what's so totally unacceptable about this, Mr. Speaker. That's what's so totally unacceptable. Now, Mr. Speaker, if I may go further, I said earlier on today, and I think it's true, the sale of AGT has been a total and absolute disaster, Mr. Speaker. Now, this government, I think there's two things in play. They knew they were in trouble. What have we got left that's worth anything, Mr. Speaker? I don't know, maybe they'll be selling hospitals and parks and everything else they can get their hands on to deal with the deficit. But they looked at Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation, can't sell that, it's not worth anything. AOC, can't sell that, it's not worth anything. Agricultural Development Corporation, can't sell that, it's not worth anything. What have we got that we can get some quick cash for, Mr. Speaker? Well, there it is, AGT, which was a well-run company for 50-some years, Mr. Speaker. So here's some quick cash we can get. Also, it works out well because it follows our ideology. We can keep the reform element at bay. We can tell them, look, we're privatizing, Mr. Speaker. And here they did. But you know, this government is so incompetent, Mr. Speaker, so incompetent, they can't even privatize properly. So what we end up with, Mr. Speaker, is them selling off to private investors, you know, and they're doing okay. All the profit-making parts of the telephone. And guess what we get back? After they put out an earnest prospectus, Mr. Speaker, and said things were a little bit out of whack there, what do we get left? Well, we get Novotel, the one that's costing the taxpayers all the money. So, Mr. Speaker, you look at it, if you take a look at it, it's interesting. Mr. Speaker, if you go through what they made selling off the TELUS share offerings, and you take the carrying costs off and the installment shares, well, we made $421 million on the two shares, Mr. Speaker. $421 million. But, Mr. Speaker, to contrast that with what we're going to lose, even going by the government's figures, Mr. Speaker, even going by the government's figures, we're losing $566 million. Now, I want to stress, Mr. Speaker, I don't necessarily believe that. I expect it'll be a lot higher when we start to pay the bills. But, Mr. Speaker, so this brilliant government, this ideologically right-wing government, can't even privatize. The taxpayers lose $145 million, Mr. Speaker. So what do we have? Mr. Speaker, what do we have? from this brilliant deal? Well, Mr. Speaker, we sold off our assets. AGT's basically gone, and we did it for a loss. Now, that's some money management, Mr. Speaker. Some money management. Mr. Speaker, can you imagine any other government in Canada trying to walk away from this, Mr. Speaker? Can you imagine it? And the interesting thing is, as we've sold off our assets, Mr. Speaker, it's a bit like selling off your mortgage to pay off your credit cards. That's precisely what we've been doing here. But the interesting thing is we sell them off, our deficits keep rising at the same time. Less assets, more deficits. Where does it end, Mr. Speaker? What's the next bamboozle coming from this government? Mind you, there can't be many left because we don't own anything, Mr. Speaker. We sold it all off. And Mr. Speaker, the reality for us, right here in 1992, people are going to look back at the Getty term and wonder, how did we do it? How did we squander billions of dollars? What did I get out of it? How did those deficits help me as an ordinary Albertan? That's the questions that people are asking. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? You know what they're going to look at? They're going to look at the principals. They're going to look at the MAGCANs, the Mariuses, the GSRs, the Pocklingtons, and they're especially, Mr. Speaker, especially going to look at Novotel. And they're going to say, how could this happen? How could it happen, Mr. Speaker? $566 million. And what's so appalling to me, Mr. Speaker, what's so absolutely appalling, is they don't take any blame for it. Yes. Yesterday, the Treasurer said, you know, when the credit rating goes down and these sorts of things, it's somebody else's fault. I guess I've had my 10 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Before the chair recognizes anyone, the chair needs to point out that this is debate, and in the normal course of debate, arguing pro and con on the sides of the issue, ordinarily one would go to this side of the House, but at the moment one does not see anyone on that side of the House. Therefore, one recognizes someone from the Liberal Party who is standing there. Leader.
Edmonton Glengarry, Leader of the Liberal Party.
Order, please, Honourable Member. Take your place, Honourable Member. Take your place. Perhaps you weren't hearing correctly. The chair went out of its way to try to recognize someone from the Liberal Party so it would not see a second person from the New Democratic Caucus. The chair was attempting to be gracious. The chair could not recognize who had been standing there. And certainly the chair knows what your name is in your constituency. The chair recognizes Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that you intended no harm. The comments that were made, I think, could have been interpreted in a very different way. With all due respect to the Speaker, this someone is the leader of the Liberal Party and has great pride in being the leader of the Liberal Party.
Thank you, Edmonton Glengarry. Take your place. In actual fact, in parliamentary practice, members are only recognized as being for their constituency. It is also the parliamentary practice in the House of Commons, and the member from third parties are recognized by their constituency. The designation in the House is by cabinet ministers and the departments that they have, and to the official ranking of the official leader of the opposition. Edmonton Glengarry, you may proceed in the debate, or else you will be ruled out of order, and the next speaker will be Edmonton Kingsway.
You want to raise a point of order?
Let's go. This is an emergency debate.
Am I recognized, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I wish to engage in the debate on this most serious of matters that affect the people of Alberta. A matter that has been treated in a most unusual way, extraordinary way by the government, a cavalier way, a way in which I believe rules have been manipulated or process has been manipulated, and the minister shakes his head, but Mr. Minister, we're entitled to draw that conclusion when the minister runs off to Calgary to make his announcement rather than facing the members of this assembly yesterday as he should have, and we're entitled to draw the conclusion that we have that the process has been manipulated by switching budget review to allow for a review of the minister's estimates so that there could be some limitation on the questions that could be put to the minister and the government. That's manipulation. That's an indignity, Mr. Minister and members of this assembly, to the people of Alberta, and that kind of indignity has to stop. Mr. Speaker, we had the unusual circumstance of the treasurer standing in this assembly yesterday and laughing about this matter, leaving the assembly and saying that it wasn't really his responsibility, he signs the checks, treating the matter in a most cavalier way, providing cute answers to a problem that the like we haven't seen in this province for, well, I don't think we've ever seen a problem like this before. Now, Mr. Speaker, in this budget year alone, the treasurer stands up and tells us that the deficit is $2.3 billion. If you look at the other losses and add the $300 million, it's $2.6 billion. And we've attempted to ask the treasurer, and again today the premier, exactly what this would mean in terms of the deficit for this year or the deficit for last year, what this means in terms of the loss to Albertans. And that answer hasn't been given. And that's manipulation. So when the government talks about being forthright in dealing with this matter, don't fool Albertans and don't fool members of this assembly. You've not been forthright. If you were forthright, we would have known 2 weeks ago when this deal was cut, when an agreement in principle was made. Mr. Minister, it was made, and this matter was discussed in Cabinet, and stand up and deny it later on if you dare. Mr. Speaker, being forthright means that a treasurer and a minister come forward and they say $566 million is being lost, this is going to mean more debt, and here's the amount of debt that it's going to mean, and here's where we have to put the deficit loss last year and this year. It doesn't mean, and it doesn't include, and it shouldn't involve an auditor general. It shouldn't involve an auditor general by attempting to use him to camouflage and hide. And I'm sorry, Mr. Minister, would you like to repeat that for the Speaker? Mr. Speaker, being forthright with Albertans means telling them the truth, not hiding things, not camouflaging things, and not putting things under the rug. Be forthright, Mr. Minister, when you stand up in this assembly and tell us where these losses are going to go, how they're going to be recorded. Tell Albertans how much more debt from the $15 billion that the Auditor General identifies will be on their heads. Tell us that, Mr. Minister, when you stand up. Be forthright with us. Mr. Minister, I'm challenging you when you stand and speak to this matter. I'm challenging the minister and I'm challenging the members of the government to stand up and tell us exactly what this means. If Moody's had known what happened, if they knew when they were doing their assessment that there was another $566 million of debt coming, deficit allocation coming, I think that the downgrading would have been much more serious. And Mr. Minister, I'd like you to address that issue as well. What effect, Mr. Minister, do you expect this to have when Standard & Poor do their assessment, or when the Dominion bond rating people do their assessment, or the Canadian bond rating people do their assessment?
What's it going to cost?
What's it going to cost Albertans in the end when all of those assessments and downgradings come through? How much more are we going to have to pay for monies that we've borrowed? How much more are we mortgaging the people, the children and the children of their children in this province? Be forthright. Tell us the truth. Mr. Speaker, The matter of this issue is a matter involving a government that has played political games in the marketplace, a government that has no difficulty in providing monies to laundromats, no difficulty in providing monies to one of the biggest corporations in the world to start a pulp and paper factory that sends the raw pulp to Japan to get processed, all the value added being lost. A government that doesn't seem to have the people that can do assessments and the ministers that can make judgments as to how money should be invested, taxpayers' money should be invested. Be forthright with us. Tell us where the system has gone wrong. Is it your advisors that are making a mess of this thing? Or is it you, Mr. Minister? Is it you and your colleagues that don't know how to make business decisions? Tell us that. Be forthright with us. Where has this whole system broken down so that there are some $2 billion of loan guarantees that are at risk immediately or lost last year? Sorry, $2 billion in loan guarantees that are at risk, 200 million lost last year. Where and why is the process continuing to break down? What happens at that cabinet table, Mr. Minister, when you sit down and you make decisions on using taxpayers' money? Do you consult with the members of your caucus to find out whether these ideas are good ideas? The member from Littlebow that was recently elected to this assembly campaigned on an issue of fiscal responsibility. How can he go back to his constituents and talk about fiscal responsibility? How can he do it? Do you allow that member to make some sort of input on the decisions that are being made that are losing hundreds of millions of dollars for Albertans? Be forthright with us, Mr. Minister, and tell us that. Mr. Minister, an honorable member, our candidate will be here in the next general election, and you and a lot of other of your colleagues won't be here. That's for sure. Mr. Speaker, there's another issue that I think needs to be addressed, and it is with respect to the prospectus, last year's prospectus on the sale of AGT. Now, I think there's something fishy and phony that needs to be explained by the minister on that one.
Thank you, Honourable. Thank you, Honourable Member. Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism, followed by Edmonton Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to take part in this debate today to try to put some perspective from the government side of the House in this most troubling and serious matter. I could say without fear of contradiction that there is not one member of the government that is pleased that the province of Alberta finds itself in this particular situation. This is not a happy day. We're not pleased that Albertans and the government are facing losses of this amount. But, Mr. Speaker, let me make it clear that the government is doing everything within its power to bring full disclosure of this matter to the people of Alberta. And I think it's critically important that that is well and completely understood, that there will be nothing held back. There is no attempt to hide. There is no attempt, as the leader of the third party in this House has suggested, to manipulate the rules and the situation in order to hide anything. It's an enormously complex and difficult situation, and it takes a period of time for these matters to spill out. Mr. Speaker, I believe the government and the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunication, the Premier, the Treasurer, the Cabinet, and the caucus and our entire government machinery has done the best possible thing in an exceedingly difficult situation with regard to the Novotel issue as it's come to be known. Our utmost concern here was for people, the people who were employed by Novotel,